Welcome back to Understanding VC. I'm your host Rahul. Understanding VC is a perpetual MBA on a single subject, venture capital. And today I'll be having an in-depth conversation with Oded Hermoni on his community-driven VC investment approach. Oded is a co-founder and managing partner at J Ventures, a community-driven global venture capital fund based in Silicon Valley with a collaborative community of leaders, including top investors, executives, and founders. Also, one quick note. Are you looking to refresh your digital presence? Digital Prism, the Singapore based digital transformation expert sponsoring this episode, has a fantastic offer. First 10 listeners to contact them get 20 free consultation hours. Just mention Rahul sent you. And also learn more from the link in the show notes. Now let's talk to Oded. Hi, Oded. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Hi Rahul, good to see you.
Yeah, you often refer to J Ventures as a capitalist kibbutz. What is a kibbutz?
So kibbutz is an Israeli word, but it's been used also as a metaphor of a collective of people that are doing things together. It's an equal community, so it's not just the opposite of a capitalist society. It's more socialist, where people are working together for a greater goal. But if you want to think about a venture capital, it resembles a kibbutz if the LPs are not limited partners, if they are also involved partners. So, so when you look at the kibbutz and say, let's make it a capitalist kibbutz, let's make it where everybody's still equal, everybody's still working and contributing for the same bigger goal, which is making more money, but it's about investing in company. And then the very wealthy people and the engineers who invest in us, or anyone else in this range between, have enough money to invest in a VC fund and have enough money to do whatever they want, if they are all equal and they all can invest the same amount of money, they contribute the most important thing for them, which is time. So they contribute to the kibbutz the time, the knowledge, the experience, the network, all those things above, and they work together to make a better fund. But during that part, because it's a kibbutz, it's a community, and the relationship between the people is not less important. So people are becoming friends, they work together, they have business relationship together. They also sometimes match their kids together to be we have kids who are dating each other. We have siblings in our group. So it's a much more than just a VC fund. We almost look at it as a family in a way.
You say that this is a VC model sort of inverted.
Yeah, it's think about most VCs have a GP that makes all the decisions, right? He's the central of everything. It's his Rolodex, it's his experience, it's his knowledge. And when he invests one day in AI and the next time he invests in scooters, electric scooters or whatever, he knows the process of building companies or investing in companies, but not necessarily is an expert for every vertical in the market. And when the market is evolves, he's not the expert for everything. He's limited. In our case, we have 500 people who have each one has his own expertise. So it's not about the GP as much as it's about the community behind it and the way they are engaged, the doors that they are opening. And this enables us to have a very unique access to companies that most VCs don't have, but also to have a screening of companies in a way that no other VC that I know could do. Maybe Andreessen Horowitz or once that they have a very strong bandwidth of people to do the due diligence. So when we do a due diligence on a company, we can bring the president of Box and we can bring the GM of Google Cloud or the CMO of Google Cloud, or we can bring a partner in Lightspeed, or we can bring a partner at Twing, or a C level at Salesforce, or a C level at Uber. The fact that we can bring all those people to do the exact due diligence because of their knowledge is very unparalleled.
So, what does this look like? Like, what does the kibbutz, the capitalist kibbutz of J Ventures look like?
So we don't have anything physical. If this is what you have in your mind, that we are taking our building things, and we have a basically virtual and in-person communities. The largest one is in Silicon Valley. Our community is based on, I would say, five backgrounds that could overlap. One, that you have about 250 executives or past executive people who've been VP and C level in big companies, Google, Facebook, Intel,
This device isn't
Marvell,
set up yet. To get started,
Google.
use the
You just
Google Home
mentioned
app
Google
on
and
a
she's
phone or
waking up.
tablet.
And then we have 160 GPs that this is their day job. So they are coming from other VC funds and they invest in us, their own money, which is also very unique. I don't know any other VC fund that has so many VCs that this is the day job. Another important part are that we have 100 plus serial founders, and we invested in 15 of them. So we invest in our own LPs, which also creates a different dynamic between LPs and GP and companies. And then the last two is that we have 40 family offices and about 150 people who sit on NGOs board. So people who are not just coming from the business perspective, but on top of the business accomplishment, they also have things that they care about, and this is makes them who they are. They are people who come with values. So the first thing we check when we enable people to join the kibbutz, by the way, people are coming word of mouth. So we have people who are just usually with referral, and then their experience is that we check first of all if they are mensch. You know what is a mensch? A person with higher integrity. It's a Yiddish word, and we want to make sure that this man or this woman, their values are high enough, that it's not just money, and their ego is not too big for a community, that they can live with the community. They could build companies of billions of dollars, but still have an ego in the right place. And then the accomplishment. People come with very unique and very impressive accomplishment. And we see how this helps. When we have cyber, we have enough people who've been running big companies in cyber. It could be the CEO of cyber, it could be the CMO of SentinelOne. If we do in automotive, we have the same thing with Ford and GM and Nikola and others. So first of all, this is the community, but the community doesn't stop only with those definitions. We have 36 siblings. So a brother brings a brother. I would never bring a brother to something that is financial if I wouldn't be 100% certain he won't lose money, right? So this is part of the concept. And to see them coming up together, it's very nice. Then you see roommates from college, or you see business partners. So there's a lots of things that you pick the people that you want to bring with you down the road because you're going to spend time with them. And then we have sometimes requirements of how many we want from a specific geography or specific age group. So in the last fund, we decided that 25% are younger, are sub 40, 25 to 40, and accomplished. People who are working in VCs, people who sold the company, people who build the company, and so. So we can decide that in this fund we give priorities to people that come from New York or Boston or Singapore, for example, because we want more people from those areas. So, and this is the background of the community. But the community just doing investments, but they also do other things. I mean, we shared wisdom. We have our J fellows. Our kids have their own program. We just finished the third cohort, so 66 of our kids been listening to the CFO of Oracle or the head of product of Palantir and things like that, and they learn how to be VCs, something similar to what we are doing in this podcast.
Yeah.
And then we meet. We meet a couple of times a month. It's over Zoom or in person in Palo Alto or in New York or in Tel Aviv, where we have different groups.
Yeah.
And we look at companies or we listen to people from our group. And the companies we listen to are companies that have been screened by the community already. So we have a screening committee that has a lot of people from our community. They are all VCs almost and operators. And then we pick 3 or 4 companies to present. All of them are VC backed when we see them. So we don't lead rounds. So this is why we always expect that there's a bigger VC to leave. We have invested with some of the top tier VCs in Silicon Valley in Israel. And then the kibbutz meets with them and we vote for one thing. The kibbutz is able to vote for one thing, which is should we continue with a deeper due diligence? Should we look at this company and who will be the people who will be in this due diligence process with our team? And then once we gather this, we do a very deep due diligence. It takes us a couple of weeks. Some VCs ask for this due diligence report because the depth and the understanding of the industry is almost unparalleled. And then we go to the investment committee and we approve it, the amount, and also if we invest in. But the next day is more important. This is portfolio success. How we take this amazing community with this Rolodex and how we make them helpful for the companies that we have invested in. And this is I think, even more interesting. So the due diligence process is very crucial to make the right decision. Already in that process, when the founder meets those experts that he was dreaming about, it's his West dream, then there's a connection. And at that point, he says, we want you in, regardless if it will be oversubscribed or not. So 50% of the companies that we see are oversubscribed. And some of
Yeah.
them already closed the round and they opened the round for us because it's so important for them strategically. In 28 out of 36 companies that we have invested in, we were the most instrumental and important investor from all the investors they had, and usually the smallest one. So this is very powerful for us. And then there is the portfolio success, the J advisory that comes after, and this is very, very effective.
Yeah. I have a lot of questions. Would like to go each stages of everything that you do in deep. So you mentioned about building the community and the sort of criteria that you have before you bring people in as your LPs, like ego, integrity, and special skills or demographic and things like that. But what is the process that or the infrastructure that you have once they are onboarded to ensure that they all can contribute?
Good question. But you know what? When you were asking your question, I try even to ask to answer a question that you didn't ask. How we know that they don't have an ego, right?
Yeah.
Also, it's
Yeah.
something that I interview each person that joins us, and the first thing I check if he talks more than I do, and we know if this is someone that wants all the time to show off. Because the nice thing about J Venture is that you don't need to show off. Everybody's accomplished. Everybody's successful. Everybody did things in their life. So it's a group of people who wants to listen to others, not to say always. It's a very, very delicate kind of difference. And the other thing that is also important, because everybody's equal, no one can come and say, I have ego, whatever I have, I'm putting $10 million. I want to see that you don't accept me. Because no one can invest 10 million. I had a situation like this, by the way, with a very, very successful investor in some of the largest companies in the world that just I felt in the first conversation, he was very, very modest. He didn't want to say anything about himself. He just really liked the kibbutz, wanted to join. And I felt something doesn't work for me. I had another conversation with him. And I'm talking about $100,000 to $500,000. This is not a lot of money. But I wanted to make sure that I don't get someone wrong to the group. The next call, he was very, very arrogant. You guys do for me this and this and this and this and just Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. And then I said, you know what? Let's have a third conversation. Now this guy is probably a billionaire. We did a third conversation. And my suspicion was right. I felt that this guy doesn't fit our community. And he is a very sensitive guy. He understood exactly what's happening and said, so I want to understand. You don't let me in? I said, listen, we are oversubscribed, which was true, by the way. And he said, you know what? Let's see. I'm sending you now a check of $10 million to join the fund. I want to see that you'd say no to me. I said, you know what? Two things. One, I can't accept $10 million checks. Second, I know that this is not a good fit. And I feel very sorry for it because I really wanted to bring you in because we have a lot of good things that we wanted. but I hope that you are a mensch, and it feels that you are not. And sometimes we do background checks. So this is just about how we pick the people. Now, how we make them engaged. I think the first thing is that we meet. We meet as a group, and people get to know each other, and we do breakout rooms so people can interact with each other. And we meet in person. And every year we have an annual conference where people can meet in person also from all over the world. We have 40 different communities. Also in Singapore, we have in Australia. We don't have anyone from India. Let's talk about it in a second. And then what we do is that when we see a company, we see about 2,000 companies a year, that many of them been sourced by our own community members. So if we have a partner in Mayfield or Matrix or Tendi or Grove or others, they send the companies to us. And the other side are the experts. The experts are a magnet for a lot of companies. So when someone is an expert in cybersecurity, all the companies who are cybersecurity come to him, and then he knows what to suggest to us, or AI or whatever. So we see those companies, and this is one of the interaction. The second interaction is the due diligence process. People get to know each other in the same silo of experience. And then we have also the activities that are not just about investment. So there's so many areas of activity, from donations, philanthropics, and activities that are not just necessarily about investing, that people get to know each other. And about between 75% to 80%, depends on the year, of our investors been at least in one event. 255 people did due diligence in 2022, 189 people did in 2023. So this is a very high engaging kind of group.
Yeah.
And they see it as something that they like to do. To do due diligence, it's also interesting to meet those companies, but they're also interested in exploring each other's views and sitting together. Think that you can bring competitive companies, like think about just general things, C-level in Google, in Amazon, and Microsoft, and Facebook, to sit together or looking at companies together. They will never do it because they're competitors. But suddenly they sit together because they're all part of J Venture. And they hear each other. Or we did think tanks of people who are coming from different experiences. So we did in semiconductors, for example. So we brought someone who's EVP at Intel, and someone who's a VP at Marvell, and someone who's the advisor of the CEO of NVIDIA. And suddenly those people who are, they're friends, but they never sit together on business, and think together what is the most important thing that is happening in this industry.
By the way, what you said about listening more than talking, I think that's a good quality for a good podcaster as well.
I had once
Another,
a situation that someone, I met to his house in Phoenix, and then he was talking, and then he asked and stopped and asked me, "So, Oded, how do you accept people? What is the first test that you do?" And I said, "I'm checking if he speaks more than I do." So he's like going back, and then says, "Hold on one second, I was nonstop talking, so I wasn't accepted, right?" And then I said, the reason why you're talking a lot is it's not about your ego. It's about, I think you can't hear very well. You have a hearing device? He said, "How do you know?" "Only me and my wife know that I have a hearing device." So sometimes when people don't hear very well, they talk because they are afraid of the voice. I said, "Thank you." At the end, by the way, he didn't join us, but for a different reason. But that was a way, not always when people talk, it's about ego. Sometimes you need to understand what's the incentive. That's it.
yeah.
It's a lot of
So,
psychology.
yeah. So, has there been a scenario where you had some person join the community, but you had to maybe kick him out, or maybe not let him join in the subsequent fund, or things like that? Is there a scenario like that that you've encountered?
Yeah. We are now we have 3 funds, and from the first fund, 96% of the people wanted to continue. 2 didn't want to continue, 2%, and 2% we decided not to continue with. And the main reason was arrogancy to companies. If someone Someone could be even a nice person in the community, but very arrogant to company, like all the time showing off how much he knows and not listening to them. This was a problem. In the second fund, we had also two people. Yeah, it's very rare out of 500, but statistically it will happen. So we came together to the understanding this doesn't work, and we just asked them if they want to be replaced. And the next day, we had a waiting list of people, so someone else just joined instead.
Yeah. So before we continue, I would love to know, like, uh, why do you have this approach? I would love to know the background on how you reached this sort of unique approach in VC.
So there were two reasons. One, I've been a VC for almost 20 years now. Um, Before I was a VC, I had a startup, and before that, I was a journalist for many years, covering tech in Israel, and also in Red Herring. That was only old people remember that newspaper that covered the bubble of 2000. And then I worked. I always try to do mission-driven things. Just making money is not enough. You need to do something that makes you feel, you know, let's say someone dies, you want to that on the grave he put it he did money, he made money. You want to do something that is much bigger than that and important, and that people will feel that you can really change the world. Even if it's a small world, not a big world, no one can really change the whole world. So my first startup, by the way, I found jobs for 5,000 people who were unemployed, and we were sold after 18 months to Yellow Pages. But the feeling that you can really make an impact on people was very important for me. And then when I sold it when I was still a journalist. It was very interesting that they did it, you know, after work in a different name, because the newspaper didn't allow me to do it with my name. I was the editor of the high tech section, and then I joined a group of investments in Israel that invested only in the peripheral of Israel, only in the south and the north of Israel. And for me, it was very important because we invested, first of all, in a geography that usually doesn't bring unicorns, and it's much harder. But also, you're only one of the only investors there, so you have a more ability to look at companies that others can't. And there are diamonds everywhere. We had one company that was acquired for $1.3 billion by a big pharmaceutical company in Japan, and the company raised nothing. And it was very, very small, and it came from the south. And then for me, that was a very interesting way to think outside of the box of VC, to think how you look at people. And then, and we invested a lot also in companies that were what we call today clean tech, companies who have an impact, companies who are doing coating of fruits that enables them to longer shelf period in supermarkets, or water treatment, and lots of other things, batteries. And then after that, I also led the Israeli High Tech Industry and Venture Capital Association. It is the largest umbrella organization of the Israeli tech, called IETI. And then I moved to the US and joined the family office of a friend of mine, Daniel Rekanati. Rekanati family used to be one of the largest family offices in Israel. They had 30% of the Israeli economy or so. And I was the partner in the US. It was also a different kind of a VC fund because it was a single uh, LP fund. And we were three partners, very good friends, doing things together, investing, thinking differently. So all this gave me a good understanding that I want to do something else. I want to do something about people. And then one of the top Israeli investors in Silicon Valley, is one of my investors also, but I had a conversation with him, and I had an offer to be a partner in one of the largest Sand Hill Road funds. And he said, "Oded, you won't enjoy it. Too much ego, too much politics. It's not you. You like to do things that are close to your heart. You like people." So he encouraged me. And at the same time, we also wanted to connect American Jews and Israelis because they look like one tribe, but they are very, very separate. Um, and they are very, very strong. If you look at Silicon Valley, Facebook, Google, Salesforce, there are lots of companies that and a lot of VC funds that choose, they didn't identify themselves as this way. They just, this is their background, created. There are also a lot of Israeli companies that have been created in Silicon Valley and in Israel. So this kind of matching was very natural. How we create a new community that brings people together with different backgrounds. So all those things came together for me, and I can tell you that I'm very very happy person with what we are doing. It just, the energy is there. Yesterday we had an LP meeting talking about the last 4 years of J Ventures, and I don't think many managers of VCs get emails from the LPs saying, "Thank you for being part of it. Thank you for this is, it's one of the most important identity that I have today." And it's amazing to see how people react to it, how people feel connected and included.
Yeah. So, just one more thing on J Ventures. What is your investment mandate? I think you're sector agnostic and you invest from early stage, from seed stage, I guess. Uh,
So 80% of our companies are early stage.
okay. And just one
And
more thing. Do you guys exclusively only invest in, let's say, Israeli or Jewish founding teams?
no. So one of the mission of the fund is really to connect the Jewish world. We really want to do it. We have non-Jewish people in our group. They're very, very welcome. We don't ask them even to convert. We had one, someone from Hong Kong who joined us, and then he called me and he said, "Oh, did I converted to Judaism?" I said, it's not mandatory." He said, "Ah, okay." But he's a, he did it anyway. He wanted to do it, not because of the group, of course. Just, it's an anecdote. So we have many non-Jewish people in our group who contribute a lot, and they feel part of this kind of, because Judaism for us is about values. It's not religion. It's about believing in helping, believing in talking good about others, doing well for this world. A third of our companies were in impact areas, so we invested in companies like BeHero. BeHero is one of the top 100 cleantech companies. They do AI for beehives, hundreds of percent, and they currently cover 10% of all the acres of pollination in the U.S. After 4 years of operation. So we care a lot about doing good and doing well. We also have a dedicated fund for impact called J Impact that is part of the kibbutz, and Iran Sanders is managing this with the kibbutz. But for us, it's what we decided, for example, that the next fund, which will start in a few months, will have, the, if you think about it, the two largest and most influential groups, ethno groups in Silicon Valley, and Silicon Valley is very ethno-oriented. So when you are a young Indian entrepreneur, you will likely go to an Indian partner in any VC. It would be your natural thing, or to a Jewish, or to Israeli if you're Israeli or Jewish. So, and if you look at Silicon Valley today, it's very much, there are two very strong groups. One are the Indians, and the other one are Jewish people that they don't define themselves separate. The Indian Americans do define themselves as the Hindus, but they are very similar. We are very similar to the Indians ones. There's a lot of collaboration. And one of my partners is Nilesh, who's also very leading the boot graduates in the Indian community there. And so what we thought is that in most of the VC funds, we have either Jewish or Indians or both together. And almost 35% of all the startups are Indian founders. And we never measure the Jewish, but I would say it's another 30%. So think that together we have a unparalleled access to companies, but overlapping of executives and VCs. And so we wanted to invite a group of 70 people who asked to join J Ventures in the past years from the Indian community. And they're all executives, amazing people. And so we decided that the next fund will have them, but it's also about Israel. We really see this kind of, there's a lot of overlapping of interest in Israeli technology and companies. Most of the companies that we invest are happen to be Israeli entrepreneurs or Indian entrepreneurs in Silicon Valley. It just happened to be. Um, and so when you cross border, when you cross paths of interest, then you are exposed to other things. If you live in your silo, you all the time see only those kind of entrepreneurs, only those kind of companies. But if you cross border and you open it, then you see others. And I saw it. I was 10 years on the investment committee of Thai angels in Silicon Valley. I was a charter member of Thai. I was co-chair of one of the tracks of TaiCon. I was very much involved with Thai just for that reason. I was the only Israeli on Thai. I worked with amazing people. Just really hats off for each one of them. They are very close friends. And together we always thought how we build this something together. This was my dream to make the Hindu, Israeli, Jewish VC fund. So this will be the next one.
Yeah. So I have a couple of questions on like how you source, then the whole sort of selection and due diligence process, and then finally sort of working with the portfolio companies. So starting with the sourcing, right? Like I've often heard you mention that you invest in company that wants you rather than needs you. First of all, what do you mean by that?
So I don't see us as a bank per se. So many VC funds, the main role is to bring money to the company. I think our role is more about bringing value to the company. So I don't want to be measured by the check size. We invest $500,000 to $1.5 million, but we complete the other VCs. So let's assume this is a $6 million round. We will put the 1 million that is a complementary to the rest of the round. But I think what we bring in is really the value. So if a company needs us for the money and they can't raise it from elsewhere, we are not a good fit. We want the ones that are able to raise money from the top investors, that they have investors chasing after them, but they want us because of the value. That's what I mean by that.
Okay. And how do you source for these startups? It's through the LP network, I guess.
So it comes from different angles. One is, first of all, we are partnering with a lot of VCs in Silicon Valley and Israel, and they send us companies because they know the value add that we bring in. So every year we have a meeting of GPs from other VC funds. It's usually like 100 people that come over. Those are the people that we partner with. Second, it's the people from the community. They are responsible for about 50-60% of the deals that we see. It's either the experts, the VCs, or the serial founders that come from them. Many of them invested already in the company. So they invested and then they say, hey, this is a good company of ours. Come and check it out. And the biggest obstacle and conflict that we have is how to say no. Let's assume one of the VCs brings us a company. Now he has a very good conviction in this company, and we decide with bringing the right experts that this is probably not the right market fit or not the right valuation. And we had this kind of situation that they bring us the best companies and we decide not to. It's a very conservative VC fund. Not saying anything wrong about the other companies. Just our fund is extremely conservative compared to other VC funds because it's a community empowered VC fund. So this is how we source the companies. There are many founders who approach us also. They know someone in the group, so they say, hey, we know this one and we wanted to present to you. So we see a lots of companies. We invest at the end in 5 to 10 companies per year. So out of 2,000, if you look at the pipeline, it shrinks out to about 510.
Okay. So let's say one of the LP, GP, or a founder brings you a company, then what is the sort of selection and due diligence process like?
So first of all, he sends us the deck and he says, Oded, listen, or Nilesh or GM, I think this is an interesting company. And then usually back on this, we say if this is a good fit or not, just when we look at the stage of the company, what they're doing, the valuation, the the, the team, if we know. So we do an initial screening of about 1,200 companies. And then we bring about, out of that, we talk with them, we meet with them, we look at the things. We bring about 600 to our screening committee. Sometimes it's 400, sometimes it's 500 over the year. and everybody's on that screening committee looks at the company. So we have a lot of gut feelings from industry experts. Many of the processes of J Ventures is based on gut feelings because we've seen so many companies, you know when it's a good fit and when it's not. So I think that those companies already had a VC inside who did the due diligence. So someone already felt that this is a good company. Then it goes all those processes of people who know the industry, who know this kind of founders. And sometimes we saw companies of top tier VCs that one of our members in the screening committee said, "Hey, but I know the entrepreneur, it wouldn't work. You wouldn't take them anywhere." So we have the inside information, and then we bring it to the kibbutz, and this is really just like AI. There's so many points there of understanding. People sometimes ask about the code. It's really people are shocked by the level of the questions that people ask. And then we have the due diligence that this is where the gut feelings ends, and we really people that understand this kind of industry, and we do a very comprehensive report. It's about 50 pages, and then there's the investment committee. So there are so many 7 parts of due diligence in way of getting confirmation that this is a good company. And this is also one of the problems that when it comes already cooked to the kibbutz to meet, this company already had one of the best funds, very usually serial founders, already have revenues in early stage. The chances we say no are as well. So third of the companies who get to the kibbutz, we approve usually between 10% to 30%.
So initial screening is by every member of the LP community.
If any LP can be involved,
Yeah, I mean all of them can be involved.
yeah. Not all of them are involved. I think I told you it's like every year is different. Some people have the startups, so they are very, very busy at that point, and then they sell the company and have time, and then they are putting more efforts. But we call out. We say, hey, you are the VP of Airtable. Can you look at this company that is right in your area? And he says, yeah, I'll spend a few hours about this. So many of them contributed over the past years. We had 880 people who've been doing due diligence to our companies. In many cases, it was more than one time. So it's not 800 individuals, it's 880 situation of doing due diligence. And we had over 120 meetings over the past 4 years. So people really had a chance to, and we have about 100 to 150 people on every Zoom call. So a lot of people are exposed and engaged and interested, and they really help. I mean, we have companies that we bought 20, 30% of the revenues. We have companies that we bought all the next round. We bought pivoting. They talked to us yesterday, for example. We had in our LP meeting, we had 4 of our portfolio companies to talk about J Ventures, and their one just raised 32 million. The other one raised 67 million so far. The third one is closing now a $14 million round, and the fourth one was just yesterday chosen as one of the most promising Israeli companies and closed 25 million. But they're all engaged, and some of them are also our LPs. 2 of them are LPs in J Venture. It's completely different kind of story. They could choose everyone else. They wanted us. This is what is important to us.
And you mentioned about the initial screening process, which you said is like a gut feeling. Love to know what makes up your gut feeling. So what are like the personal values or like the principles that guide your decision making when you see a team?
I think both me and Ilesh and Jim invested in dozens of venture capital funds in the past and also individually invested in Sequoia and Iconic and others. Nilesh been many years at Cisco, M&A and product, and been seeing a lot of companies. And I've seen thousands of companies over my life. So I think many people that've been in this industry for a long time, either from the industry perspective or from the VC perspective, investment perspective, they know. They know after 5 minutes. They know they see the deck, they see the problems, they see the opportunity, they see the team, and they see if this is someone who can take a company forward or not. There's a lot of gut feelings that is happening. Very few times that the VC sees something that he thinks wouldn't work and then changes his mind. It's happening. But usually, you know it from the first look, and we are not focused on the companies that we missed. We are focused on the companies that we did invest in. Out of 40 companies, we had only two write-offs in 4 years. One of them became a unicorn, raised 400 million after we invested. The other one was a very simple, no market fit. But out of 40 companies, we usually pick winners and we continue to invest in those winners. And the help that they need is not only in one stage. So think that if a seed company comes to you and the gut feeling works, you already decided that you feel the chemistry with the entrepreneur, you feel the chemistry with the industry. He will also need a different help in A round and in B round and in C round. And you grow with him, he needs different kind of help. The first seed, he needs design partners. Then he needs GTM. Then he needs kind of other help, finding the right executives, for example. And sometimes the best help that they can get, you just hug them and talk to them. We we are just good in. We don't have anything to interrupt them. We can just help them. I never take a board seat, which is also different from other VCs or my past VCs. If there's a board seat, we usually give it to one of the experts because this is a win-win-win. This is the person that the company would like to have in their dream list, but usually not for the equity because we are not the leading investor in the round. So it gives us a lot of flexibility to be the supportive part. And founders are very, very lonely there. They need all the time to perform against the board, against the company, against the other executives in the company. And there we just, non-judgmental, just be with them and help them and support them. It's amazing to see.
So you mentioned when you take a board seat, it's usually one of the LPs who will be representing.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Always the LPs.
Okay.
And
That
it's
is very
also,
rare.
I said that the LPs in our group don't shouldn't have this kind of ego that puts others aside. They have ego, by the way, they accomplish people, but not one that is overtaking the group. It's also about me. I can't have this ego. I don't think J Venture is about me. It's about us. And this is why I don't take board seats. I don't care if it's my name on. It's a lot of ego game that I don't need. Uh, so the companies do invite me to the boards just to sit there because they see the value, but we don't have a formal position.
What are some of the signs of a founder who can really take a company far, no matter what the company does?
So listen, the easy answer is always serial founder because we saw it that in shaky water they know how to navigate the boat better than anyone else. And many of the founders that we invested in, I think 20 out of 36 are serial founders who sold at least one or two companies. The problem with those founders, by the way, is a bit different. The appetite is a bit lower. They have already a lot of money in the bank. And so it's more about accomplishing a big company and finding something to do rather than making the bank bigger. So this is not always the only incentive. The other way, when you see someone that you like romantically, you just feel it, right? So there are people that get into the room and you know that they will be successful. I don't know how to explain it. I remember that I invested in a company called Yotpo in 2013, 14, and my partner said it was a company that had two large competitors. It was a small company from Israel, two large competitors that merged together and went public. They were a monopoly by the antitrust in America. And this company in Israel wanted to compete against them. And I said, guys, it wouldn't work. So they say, come and meet them. And I met them. And those two guys, it was so clear that they're going to do whatever they will do, they will be successful. And now it's a couple of billions of dollars company, and they are bigger than the antitrust really forced the other company to get two parts, and they are, they are the market leaders. And yesterday I was just thinking about your question when three of our members of our companies presented, and those are kind of people that the people in the room said those are the people that when they get, that they will be successful. Uri, who is the founder of Nimbleway, is the serial founder, also one of our investors, is one like that. Who founded Be Hero, another serial founder, is someone like that. Alex and Gilly from Sense were also one of our investors, are also one of those. You know that it's not about, Sense is doing vertical SaaS of laundromats. Bessemer is the largest investor in this company. But you know that even if you wouldn't do vertical SaaS of laundromats, you will be successful in cyber or in healthcare or in any other. Just have this kind of, you see someone with a charisma. And also, last thing about that is the connection between the founders, which is very, very important. To see that the founders in the right position. So the CEO shouldn't be the VP product and the CTO should be the CEO. Sometimes it's not right. You see the connection that they are coming together and they complete each other. It's like a married couple. And we once did a, a research on it, and we found that really the first most important things to successful of the companies was not the technology, it was the founders and the relationship between the founders.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, in your website, you mentioned that you're often the smallest investor, but with the greatest impact on the portfolio company. So, I'd love to know, like, how do you help support the portfolio company? I think you briefly mentioned about opening doors and bringing in the revenue, certain percentage of their revenue, and things like that. Yeah.
It's very, very broad, and we never know how this community will help. For example, Be Hero is an active company. I didn't know we have ways to help in Arctic, but we had people in South America and in Australia who could open the market for them. And then we knew people in the soy market and we introduced to them. And then we introduced them to investors who invested in the company and brought value to them. So it's very broad kind of network that you never know if this Rolodex where it can help. There are companies that we bought the CMO or we bought the CFO. In companies, in some companies, we bought the first customers, the design partners, the next customers. In many, we bought VC to invest. But the work with startups is not only on one vertical of succeed of helping. It will be giving feedback about the product, for example. Let's say you're a company in Chicago or New York, you don't know so much how people look at things in Silicon Valley or an Israeli company, same thing. So the way I think it's very helpful if you are outside of a specific geography and you get the feedback from the other geography. And it can work on the other side. So we invest in enabling technology. And sometimes Silicon Valley is so self-centered that they think that we know everything about that technology, but the customers are elsewhere, right? The insurance companies are not based in Silicon Valley, they are based outside of Silicon Valley. The financial institutions, the real estate contractors. So there are lots of issues that if you have people outside of Silicon Valley, you get feedback that otherwise you wouldn't get. And sometimes we directed them to the right direction. We help them get there. And I think 85% of our companies get $1 million ARR in the first year of operation. Some companies, it's not their business model to make the revenue there. They build a technology for a long time. But other than that, how you bring the head of growth of Google to a company that is doing games. Sometimes, those kind of things. And because we have all those people that are in high position that saw this kind of journey, it's very helpful. Those entrepreneurs, and usually serial entrepreneurs listen more than first-time entrepreneurs. First-time entrepreneurs are afraid that if they listen, they lose some of their power. They're weak. Serial entrepreneurs, they understand the process, they know how to build a company, but they know that they are limited in understanding each industry, and they want to listen, and they listen as much as they can.
Yeah. One question regarding getting first time founders to listen. How do you do that?
So this is one of the first things we check, if there are people who are listening or just people that know what they think they know what they're doing. It's a dialogue. And I think almost all the founders that we have invested in are listeners, are people who want to learn and to improve and do better. And they understand that they don't know everything, they just call you and ask others, not me. I mean, I'm telling them, okay, listen, I want you to speak with those three people. I think they can give you a good advice. And this is the thing that they like the most. They want to hear those experts to make less mistakes. Listen, I think entrepreneurship and investments are very much about psychology. It's about people. At the end of the day, it's people. And because there are so many macro events that change everything. You know, we've been looking at it for the past 4 years. We had the pandemic, and then we had the supply chain issues, then we had the bubble, and then we had the bubble burst, and then we had SVB Bank. There's a lots of things that are happening that has a macro effect, and you can change it. Right now, you're in insurance, and Hippo lost money. No one wants to invest in insurance. It's not about you and your company. It's just right now the market is not tolerant for this kind of industry. So we are very diverse, first of all. But how you overcome those things, it's very much working with the companies and with the people. And the people need a lot of support.
Yeah. And you mentioned about bringing initial $1 million revenue for one of your portfolio companies, or a percentage of that revenue. But don't you think it's more important to teach that portfolio company how to get to that $1 million rather than just doing the work for them? Because only when they, so even the same argument that I have is also with opening doors, right? It's important that they learn how to open the door themselves. So
Yeah, no, we are not doing babysitting. We are enabling them the right doors. They open the doors themselves. And we say in Hebrew, you can bring a horse to the water, but you can't force him to drink. And so I think this is, first of all, we work with very amazing entrepreneurs, really amazing entrepreneurs. And I want to say a word about the Israeli entrepreneurs, because any immigrant, by the way, not necessarily Israel, anyone who comes from outside to a country to establish his company or to increase his company presence are people who are, pioneers. They come with this. They there's a lot of trade-off. If they have families, they bring their family. The wives usually don't have the work that they had before. The kids have a new environment. They struggle, but when they see a door and they can't go through the door, they will get through the window. And this kind of entrepreneurs that we work with, and just good people. I like to be the fly on the wall, just to listen to these experts, just to listen to the entrepreneurs. But also the fact that I have so many GPs in part of my fund, I learn all the time. People who what they forgot, we didn't even start to remember. People who've been in 2000, 2008, they've seen the cycles. And one of the things that helped J Ventures is that we've seen it, we've done it. So we were ready for this bubble and bubble burst. And we, for example, we kept 50% of the fund for 2023 because we thought 2022 was a good year to invest, or 2021. And this is a 2020 fund. So we realized how to invest in companies that are revenue driven and very strong in bad times and good times. And that was our mission. And helping them to go to an entrepreneur in 2021 and tell him, don't take the money from this fund, although they offer you 2x, take from this fund. Or don't take one of our portfolio companies. We joined a round of $10 million that we put only 250 because it was a foot at the door. The founder is one of our investors. We know him. And he was oversubscribed and let us in. But he raised at a very high valuation. And I told him, listen, I think honestly, to 2021, everything will skyrocket. I think you're overpriced, and your next round will be a problem because if you won't leave it to the next round, you'll get it down round. It will be much harder for you to raise money. And he was thinking about it. He had already a term sheet. Everything was ready. I mean, we were just a small flight to join the sell event. And he got back to the investors and told them that he thinks he should be 15% less of the valuation that he raised. And they respected it. And he's happy today that he did this kind of move because it took him the years to build this kind of today $50 million, for example, valuation. It's much harder to get than when he was 42.
Yeah. So building this community and executing this, I mean, it's still a challenge, right? Like, so what are some of the challenges that you've encountered so far, and like how have you navigated them?
I think the biggest challenge we have is the time zone. We didn't flat the world, and we have people in Australia and people in London and people in New York and people in LA and people in Silicon Valley and people in Brazil and people in other places. And to find the right time for all of them to meet is very challenging. Also, we try to find the right time. I'm in Silicon Valley, you're in Singapore. So this is a big issue. How you make everybody in the same time zone mentally also, not just the time. Um, Keeping the engagement is always a challenge. How you how you are relevant always. The third one is always see good companies. There's never enough of seeing good companies. I mean, you think you see good companies, but you always want to see better companies. Regardless, you want to see the best companies in the world.
Yeah.
And the last challenge I think was really that we were into so many macro events. For example, we managed to take the money out of SVB Bank just the day before the collapse. But this was very stressful. It's not up to you. You hear rumors. You manage to take the money out. You manage to let the CEOs and the LPs know that there's a problem in the bank. But at the same time, it creates also the snowball. So there are lots of things that we did that I think it was really navigating a boat in those storms, and those are big storms. So when the market is a bubble, it's not a good time to invest. The valuation just doesn't make any sense. And you sit with founders who say, "No, really, it doesn't make sense to raise that valuation." But we are being offered to get those valuations. So how you still invest in good companies and you find them and not in crazy valuation? How you keep this discipline, which we had from 2020 to 2024? It's the same discipline. How we look at companies, what are the valuations we're looking for? And then the bubble burst, and suddenly you see good companies, but they are falling down. So I think it's not just choosing the right companies; it's having luck, because luck is a big issue in in all the VC industry. I mean, you need luck. So I get the luck of 500 successful people, so this helps me. But it also timing and macroeconomics, and there are so many pivots, and just being there. And I think that the best thing for a VC GP is to have Rolodesk. If there's one area that if you ask yourself if a VC will be successful or not, is how big is his Rolodesk? How lucky he is. If he's a very lucky person, that's always good. But after that, it's the Rolodesk. Because Rolodesk enables you to source deals, to have enough deal flow. It helps you to screen deals because you have enough experts to help you doing it. It helps you to help the company. Those are the three most important things that a VC can really do. So my intention was to have the largest Rolodesk I can as a GP, not to be limited. Yeah.
Nice. So, one last question. Do you think the community led model that you have is superior or is better than the traditional VC model, especially in terms of returns? Or is it too soon to say that?
It's interesting. I think because we are very conservative and we can't tolerate failures because of the community. So I think different than VCs I was partner before. I'm not. We are hardly taking risk. We're investing alongside top tier VCs. We're not investing in companies who already have a path to make revenues. We invest in serial founders. So those are three areas that we really don't take much risk. But the problem with it is that we don't have a lot of equity in those kind of companies because everybody's looking at those companies. So when we invest in those companies, we don't have a lot of equity. I think in bad times, we will definitely be one of the best funds because we are very conservative. We hardly have write-offs and we are not taking risks. It means that we don't have the companies that gets to 150x. We have companies who did 15 and 20 and 25x multiples. So I think in terms of returns, we probably will be one of the top quarter and higher. But in bubble days, we probably won't be. We will be good fund. We always return great, but I think there will be always better funds than us in crazy times. In moderate times, we will be very, very good fund. Just because we are very conservative.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, this was great, Oded. Thank you so much for taking the time to do this.
Thank you very much. Yeah. Your early, my early also. So thank you so much. Great questions. Really enjoyed it. Really enjoyed the whatever you do is great. So thanks. We say toda rabba in Hebrew. So thank you very much.
Thank you.